Hey guys, happy Friday. I am very glad today is Friday, May 24th, 2019. Super excited to be here with my friend Suzanne Loflin Callamari. How can you not love that last name? We've known each other for a very long time. She's obviously aged much better than I've aged. Let us know you can hear us or see us. We are at the beautiful Citrus Club. We got two cool Citrus Club staff back there working it. And so I just wanted to introduce her. Let us know you can hear us and see us. Tyler, give me a heart or a thumbs up. Ash Sharma's on. Welcome, guys. Happy Friday. What's up? Tyler can hear us. We got it. So we got a thumbs up. All right, welcome. We've been trying to do this for a while, right? But you aren't here, so we had to coordinate. All right, so tell them a little bit about. Everybody likes the origin story, Suzanne, and they all probably clicked on the link. And if they're good TED Show supporters, they clicked on the link and they followed the information I gave. But tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm from Orlando, and I moved here when I was 12. My dad retired from the Air Force, so I actually finished up junior high, middle school, whatever it's called now, high school, and then college. So I graduated from Boone High School, and then graduated
Go
from
Braves.
UCF. That's right, go Braves, forever brave. And then I graduated from UCF with a degree in political science, with a minor in Soviet studies. So
Why Soviet studies? What was the interesting part about that for you to have minor in that or have a focus on that?
Oh, thank you for asking. I'm going to be dating myself when I tell you this.
No, you won't. No one's as old as I am, Suzanne, so you're good.
At the time, the United States and the Soviet Union were still in the Cold War, so when I said Soviet Union, this is pre-1992. And
That's right, we don't call it Soviet Union anymore.
That's right. And so I was very interested in that part of the world to begin with. And UCF did not offer anything studying Asia itself. The closest was a minor in Soviet studies. So I minored in that, took several years of Russian.
I was going to ask you, did you have to learn Russian?
I did have to learn Russian.
Wow.
And it is one of the 5 languages that I'm proficient in.
You can speak 5 languages?
I'm proficient. I make a good tourist now. I moved back to the States last year, so I'm slowly losing some of my proficiency. But I had to learn Russian for a couple of years. And then after I graduated, I left Orlando. And I've been gone ever since. I hate to say that, because every time I come home, it's absolutely beautiful. My mother is still here, so I try to make it home several times a year, check on my mom. And I'm going to kind of jump ahead just a little bit.
Sure.
I'm now a Mary Kay consultant, and so I do come home and work my business here in Orlando. We don't have any territories and no
Nice.
quotas. Yes, so I enjoy reconnecting and meeting new people down here and building out my business and getting in some wonderful mom time.
So how did you go from, what are the 5 languages besides English and Russian? Happy Friday, everybody, by the way.
I am proficient in both Mandarin and Cantonese Chinese.
Wow.
And I also studied Japanese. And I took about 7 years of French. And so when I was living in Germany, I enjoyed traveling around Europe and getting an opportunity to just be that American trying to speak every language there was.
I love that. I went to Colonial, right? So I took the 2-3 years of Spanish. I mean, I can still say "Donde está" in la cocina or something like that. It's like this basic thing you learn in Spanish.
Right.
So I have had to learn a lot. I don't know if it's like this in Virginia, but in Orlando, a lot of the Lyft and Uber drivers only speak Spanish. And so I've had to learn, which has been good for me. I've had to learn left, right, and straight, left lane. I mean, I've had to learn little things to be able to communicate with them because there's zero communication. So if you have to explain anything to them or something's going on and you know a better way. But I'm very sad that I did not learn more. I wish that I had done better. And I've tried Rosetta Stone. I don't even know what to immerse myself in. I grew up around Italian and French, so when I'm there and I hear it, it takes me a few minutes and I can sort of regurgitate back an answer, just not in French or Italian. It sounds really dumb. It sounds like a New Jersey Southern boy is where I'm from. So, all right, so how did you get to, because your training is intense. If you look at the resume that I posted or shared, you have a lot of governmental training.
I did.
So talk about how that came into play, because all of us graduate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I graduated with finance. I had no idea what I was doing. So you graduated, though, and actually got into your field.
I did. I feel very, very blessed to have had that opportunity to actually step into the field. I come from on my dad's side, everyone has served in the military. I am the first person in my dad's family, dating back to the Civil War, that has not served in uniform.
Wow.
Yes. However, I am the first person in my family to serve at one of the highest levels of government as a female and as an ethnic minority. So I just think, personally, I think nowhere else but the United States could someone like me have had that opportunity.
I love
and
that.
So there's always been this deep desire to always serve. And I think serving is at the very core of all of us as human beings.
Agreed.
And so I decided, well, let me just see if I could get my foot into government. And I started off on Capitol Hill.
Wow, so that was big time.
Yes,
that's pretty big time, right? Starting out?
It is, starting out. And I worked for a senator who is since retired. And I worked in her front office answering phone calls from constituents, literally.
That you have to start somewhere,
yes,
right?
Yes, and there I was barely making $20,000 a year and taking calls from constituents. And from there, I was getting promoted, which I was very grateful for. But then an opening came up in an area that I'm truly interested in with the Senate Armed Services Committee. And I was hired by the committee, and I was placed on this subcommittee for emerging threats and capabilities.
So the Senate Armed...
The Senate Armed Services Committee.
And so what's the focus or what's the purpose of that committee?
Well, there's 4 defense oversight committees. There's 2 on the House, with the House of Representatives, and 2 on the Senate side. There's appropriations for defense, and there's authorization for defense. And Senate Armed Services Committee does the authorization. That means we're okaying the money, where the appropriators appropriate, the Senate authorizers authorize. Yes, and they have the same thing on the House side as well. So my portfolio first was military health care, which I have no background in health care, and I had to learn TRICARE, the military health care system. And after President Bush 43 was elected, my boss was then nominated to be the Undersecretary of the Army.
Wow.
And he asked me to go to the Pentagon with him, and I served as his special assistant for about 2 years. And I worked on legislative issues for the Army, along with just maintaining his schedule and also working with other aspects of the Army staff.
I love to. I mean, that is service. You might not be wearing the uniform, but you're serving our country. I mean, I think of that in all government positions, especially something like that. You're really part of the whole. You may not be making the decisions, but you're part of the entire decision-making process.
Yes,
which I love.
And there's a lot of support elements in the decision-making process. I will say in my 2 years serving for the Undersecretary of the Army, the one moment, well, there are 2 moments that really stood out to me and really just brought it home to me about we must always serve because there's somebody allowing us to basically sit in this fantastic place and enjoy the lives that we have. And the first one was I went along, accompanying my boss to Walter Reed Medical Center to meet soldiers who were coming in that had been wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan. And these were the early days of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. And to see these soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, injured, and to see them how they would cheer each other on when they would be trying to practice their physical therapy. And one of the most touching moments was my boss was awarding the Purple Heart to a soldier who was severely injured, and the soldier was trying to stand up to receive the medal. And my boss said to him, "Oh, soldier, you don't have to stand. I know you're injured." And he said to my boss, Mr. Brownlee, I was serving for Mr. Les Brownlee at the time, the Undersecretary of the Army, he said, "Sir, you're awarding me with one of the highest awards this country can give. I should be standing, and it's an honor." And you just kind of take a step back, and it's like, I'm so not worthy. I live, I live in a
you
nice
not
climate
cry?
control room. Exactly.
I'm about to cry
exactly,
hearing it.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And then the second time was I actually had the opportunity to meet the gentleman who pulled Saddam Hussein out of that hole where he was found. Yes.
Wow.
And they were some of the most down-to-earth people I've ever met, and they were beside themselves to meet the Secretary of the Army. And I thought that was really cute, really enduring, and shows just
there's so much humility that goes into
is.
that, because the
There
sacrifice that our people who are serving make on a hourly basis, the sacrifice their families make, all of them make, really we can't wrap our heads around. It's you have a, I believe there's just a certain these people have a heart for it, and country is so important to them.
Yes.
And it's just a beautiful thing. I think it's amazing. That's why I'm such a big proponent of vets and active military on everything that we do, because I feel like we could be doing as a country so much more overall. I would like to see more. I'd like to see more support, but I love these kinds of stories because it's not all bad, guys. You get to see somebody awarded with the Purple Heart. You get to have people who really care what's going on at Walter Reed. And there are people up in the upper echelons of government that really do care about our soldiers. So.
Yes, most definitely. After serving 2 years on the Army staff, an opportunity came open with the Office of the Secretary of Defense for Policy. And it was on the China desk, which is actually my academic background. And I decided I'm going to go for it. And I actually met my future boss at that time at an embassy event at the Embassy of Singapore.
Wow.
And I introduced myself. Within a week I had an interview, and within a month I was sitting on the China desk, and that was the first time I felt like I am over my head. But I'm ready to dive in.
But you spoke Cantonese and Mandarin, right? That
actually,
obviously...
my time on the desk actually improved both dialects. Yes. Never mind, my mother sent me to Chinese school growing up, and I, just typical kid, didn't pay attention.
It's all right.
But I speak Chinglish with my mom.
You speak
counts.
Chinglish?
I
haven't heard that because we call it Spanglish a lot. You speak Chinglish.
I speak Chinglish with my mom. But I went over to the Office of Secretary of Defense, and I served on the China desk for about 4.5 years. And our goal, the whole team, is to provide recommendations to the Secretary of Defense on how the United States should pursue its defense relationship with mainland China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Mongolia. So I specifically had a sliver of U.S.-China mill-to-mill, Mongolia, and Hong Kong.
Wow. And so we were talking before the show how timely with what happened yesterday. People are super nervous about the trade talks with China, and the Dow just dropped. I don't know if it recovered or not, but it was down at least 400 points when I watched yesterday. Did you have to travel there a lot?
I did. I've been to Mongolia 22 times.
Wow.
Yes, and my focus there was assisting the Mongolian army transitioning from what was once an extension of the old Soviet military into an international, interoperable, self-sustaining peacekeeping force.
Wow.
Yes, and so...
Sounds like you've said that a few times.
I have. They are a steadfast partner with the United States, actually, in many coalition efforts. And with Hong Kong was just strengthening the security relationship between them and the United States. And then with mainland China, it was a focus on how does the United States military build constructive engagements with the People's Liberation Army.
All right, so before we get to Soldiers Angels, which is how we sort of began our discussion on you coming on the show, tell us a little bit about your business. You referenced it earlier. You are not in government any longer. And, okay, I'm going to say this, and I want you to take it in the best way. You go from government to beauty.
I did, yes.
Okay, so that's such a leap.
It appears to be a leap. It does appear to be a
So
leap.
talk about that a little bit, and talk a little bit about your business.
Sure, thank you for the opportunity. I actually have been using Mary Kay skincare since my early 20s. And I've always enjoyed it, thought it was a great product, and I credit it for not looking my age, literally.
You do not look your age.
No, I do not look my age, but I'm 20% of our genetics affect our aging process, and the other 80% is all environmental things.
Wow.
So I was sitting in my cubicle one day on the China desk and realizing that I'd gone pretty much as far as I was going to be going at the time professionally. I was not going to get any more promotions or pay raises, and I also didn't have a life. And
God, isn't that a realization? You're like, wake up and go, what am I doing?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And Mary Kay had popped into my head, which totally surprised me, because I had done this in my early 20s to help pay my way through graduate school. And here I was in my mid-40s, and this popped in my head, and my first thought was, I work U.S. national security issues. Why would I think of selling?
Well, that's why I asked the question as delicately as I could, because that's my first thought. I mean, you have this high clearance, and I'm not minimizing Mary Kay.
No.
It's just that happens.
Yes.
It is a leap. So, all right, but it's one thing to use the product. It's another thing to make it your career.
It is. It is. So I decided for fun that I would just become a consultant again, get my products at the consultant 50% discount. Who doesn't?
I mean,
yeah.
You're using it already.
Right, exactly. Might as well get it at a 50% discount. And people began to ask me, oh, I like your lipstick, or I like your eyeshadow. What are you using? I would tell them, and I noticed I began building a customer base. And I also began to realize I wasn't stressed out.
I was going to ask you, the stress level, there's stress at each, right? Each one's different.
It's a different.
The one at the China desk, I mean, that's stress that unless you're there, you don't understand.
Correct, yeah.
There's a different stress when you own your business, which is basically what you do. You're a business owner. It's different, but you're in control.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In control.
Right.
That makes a huge difference.
It makes a tremendous difference. And when I get into a car now, it's because I really want to go someplace.
Right.
And I can go it when I want to go
It's
and
not
not be
CVS.
stuck in traffic. I'm not going down to CVS in the Pentagon
We
to
were
look
talking
at
about
magazines
that earlier.
for my break. I used to do
that-
my break in the Pentagon. I would walk down to CVS and
I
look
mean,
at
I told Suzanne I was getting claustrophobia when she was just describing for what her day was like. I'm like, what? You can't get out?
No.
I love that, though. I love it when people can make that leap because they seem like they're completely different. You are in such a structured, incredibly structured, and we were talking about the shades. I mean, all the things that you had to really attend to, and that there were rules for absolutely everything you do when you work for the government, especially at that high of a level. Believe me, there's a reason for them. I get them, but it's still. And then now you're it. You get to go do it. Whatever you do, it's all based on you.
So the skill sets that I had working in the U.S. government and I honed, I just transferred them over to Mary Kay. And it took me a little while to be able to connect those dots. And I really embraced the process.
Good
and I
for
think
you.
that's also key. You have to embrace the process and realize that God has brought you to that very moment in time for a reason. And what's the reason, and learn from it. So don't sit there and complain. Sit there and embrace.
Amen.
And,
Hola, Tony.
And so sometimes it doesn't make sense, but you just keep moving forward. So my skill sets basically, and anyone would say the same thing if you think about it, were to listen, read, assess, and make a recommendation.
Yes.
And that's all I do now. I listen to my customers. I listen to my guests. I make an assessment. I make a recommendation. Whether or not she chooses to purchase the item is totally up to her.
Right.
But I've given her my best recommendation. And I still fall back on, I'm going to give you 3 recommendations. Choose any of the 3. I will work with any of the 3.
Right. I love
it. And so that's basically what I've done. Coming from such a structured environment, I like having a lot of structure and process in my own life. And that may sound incredibly boring to people, but that brings me a lot of peace in my mind.
Everybody's, you have your thing.
Right.
I feel like more people should be a little more structured. I love that lady who throws clothes out if it doesn't bring you joy, right? So there's some kind of structure there, right?
Exactly,
to bring you joy or not. It's a real simple question. If it doesn't, see you later.
Right.
That's a lovely structure. Hey Don, what's up, buddy? It's a good structure. People think structure has to be this cubicle is what I would envision, but it
Right.
doesn't always have to be. It has to
No.
have some rules you follow, ask some simple questions, yes or no.
Right.
A lot of people don't like yes or no. They want a maybe in there, a gray area. But that's why I love that Joy lady. She just said, to bring you joy, no, throw it on out.
Right.
Get rid of it.
Exactly.
Donate it.
Exactly.
So how did you get to Soldiers Angels? Because I really, really do want to talk about that. I
Okay.
love
I'm so
this
glad you asked. I
concept.
even brought this wonderful
Good.
little flyer
Wonderful.
here. Actually, it was a couple years ago. A Mary Kay consultant had brought to my attention that Mary Kay consultants across the country were donating to Soldiers Angels. And because this organization that's based out of San Antonio, Texas, that was started by a military mom to send items to her son who was forward deployed. And the organization really needed sunscreen because we have so many people who are forward deployed in very hot and sunny places.
100 degrees plus
100
all
degree,
the time.
Yes, yes.
I have friends who have come back and they talk about that heat.
Yes, and it's very that dry,
Yeah.
dry heat. But most people think of the sandbox. We're not thinking of folks down in the Philippines,
Right.
or folks out in Okinawa, or folks down in Africa. We do have a presence down in Africa as well. So people aren't thinking of that. And I thought, oh, well, this might be interesting. But as the analyst, the trained analyst I am,
I bet you vetted that out like
I
nobody's
did vet
business.
it out. Yes, I vet everything. That's part of my discipline process
like it.
thing.
I like
I
it.
get up and I enjoy doing that, actually. And like I have a little outline here that none of you can see right now. But I come to find out that Soldiers Angels has a 98% efficiency rating. It's also ranked one of the highest nonprofits in the country.
Wow,
Yes, and it meets all 20 standards of accountability with the Better Business Bureau.
I love that.
Yes, so therefore I felt very comfortable in reaching out to my customers and to others on whether or not they would like to donate a sunscreen package to Soldiers
And that's the
Angels.
basics of it, right? This
Mhm.
isn't a complicated, I think when people think of soldiers, they think of they want better food, they want this or that. That is such a big deal. Like it's a giant deal. Think about it. If you had to sit out in this 100-degree weather we're going to face this weekend, and you had no sunscreen and you had to be out there, I mean, it would be brutal. Now you're doing it every single day while you're deployed, while you're over there, wherever you're at. And so I actually love the simplicity of it. So talk about the package. It's a sunscreen package.
It is a sunscreen package, and it comes with a tube of sunscreen, and it comes with a lip balm, sun protector lip balm in it. And each package is $20. And I'm going to be very upfront with you. I do not make a profit from it whatsoever. And I send everything. I collect everyone's orders, and I actually, when I order the packages, I have it sent directly to San Antonio. So they can receive it, and then they pull it out, and they put together different care packages to be sent around the world. And Soldiers Angels doesn't do that. They have a variety. If you want to go to soldiersangels.org, you'll see a variety of missions that they work on to not just support the forward deployed service member, but they also work with the service members' families. They also work with the service members who are being hospitalized.
Wow.
They also provide items for the caretakers for these service members, and they also have a lot of wonderful programs for the service members' children. And I grew
Wow.
up as a military brat, and I'm very proud to say that. My dad served in
Somehow I don't believe you were a brat.
I wasn't a brat, but I do like the term.
I do too.
So-
It's very descriptive.
It
I
is very
like it.
descriptive. And my dad served in both Korea and Vietnam, and at the time there were not very many supportive family programs. And so it's really nice to see how family programs have grown a great deal over the past, probably the past 30 years.
They've really done, I think it's come, my opinion, it's come as a result of the vets seem to, I wish they got more services, let's put it that way. So in order for those services that aren't being met by the VA,
Right.
people had to come together and bond and collaborate outside of the VA
Exactly.
to get these things. And every time you went through something, you're like, we don't have a group for that. So these groups began to develop in response to
Right.
not having the needs met of our active military and our veterans.
Right. And I just came back from Germany last year, and my husband is with the Department of Defense as a civilian. And to see a lot of the programs that are set up for military families of active duty members is absolutely wonderful. The USO does a fantastic job. But once the families are deployed, or the service members deployed, there's only so much the USO can even do, and that's a private organization.
Sure.
And there's only so much a respective command can do. So
Right.
as Ted said, to have these different organizations come in and provide a plethora of support and programs, and sometimes it's just being on the other end of a phone call.
Correct.
And having had a husband deployed several times and about to have my husband deploy again, there's nothing like having knowing that you have that security blanket,
Sure.
that somebody is watching out for you.
I'm glad. I want our vets, I want our active military to feel the love, and I know sometimes that can be a challenge, but I think we have a very strong voice with all of these organizations
Right.
coming together.
We
That's
do.
why I love to talk about anything that's armed services veteran here, because I had never heard of Soldiers Angels before, so let's get the word out. Let's talk about it. It's something, because you never know what people's interests are. I want to help vets, I want to help our active military. How? Well, that one doesn't fit people are very need driven. I'm sorry, we're human beings. So if that particular one doesn't interest you, something will interest you, and maybe this will interest you. And so how do they get involved?
Very easily. All you have to do is just text me to 703-862-2204 and just say, Suze, I would like to send a sunscreen package, and I will immediately respond, and I will get a package to Soldiers Angels.
And can they check it out on your Facebook page, on a website, is there anything they can check out? Because that's what I did. I just went and looked it. I Googled it.
Oh, okay. You can always go to soldiersangels.org.
Okay.
And when you contact me, I will make sure that you receive this flyer.
And we'll share the flyer. Suzanne will share the flyer when she shares the show.
I will. And there's also a tax ID and a receipt for you.
I love it.
With all the information.
And we'll share her cell phone number again, so if you didn't get that, I promise you, when we share the show in a minute, Suzanne will put it in there. All right, so any parting, it goes by fast, right?
It does.
Any parting words of wisdom for them, anything you want to share before we head out?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Ted.
I'm
This has been
excited. It was
wonderful.
so
Thank
good.
you.
It was so good. Oh, yeah, it was
And
excellent.
I would like to come back in 5 years when you have your own studio.
It's coming.
Oh, yay. And we could talk more about service to others.
I love service to others. Thank you for being on the show.
for having
Thanks for
me.
making time while you're down here. We love you guys, so go out and support. Go out and support. We love you guys so much. Soldiers Angels, we'll share all of Suzanne's contact information and how you guys can get involved. Have a great one. We'll be back around 1 o'clock.
Thank you.
Mwah. See you soon.